And so hello everybody, this is Bhante Joe here, and just here in Pickering, and thought to do a short Owada and meditation for the internet. So we can start in our usual way by trying to get our body straight and looking about 3 feet in front of us and closing our eyes. And can focus in on the breath. Can know when it's coming in and know when it's going out. If we breathe in a long breath, can just know I'm breathing in a long breath. And if we breathe in a short breath, can just know I'm breathing in a short breath. And we can try to make awareness of the breath as continuous as possible. All the way through the in-breath, and then aware as the breath turns to the out-breath, and all the way through the out-breath. And then aware again as the breath turns back to the in-breath. And can try to make the breath as comfortable as possible. Can just pose the question in the mind. What would be a really comfortable way to breathe right now? And then let the breath respond on its own. And when breathing in and out in this way, can change our perception of the breath a bit. Often one can think of the breath almost as if it's in front and one's watching it. But instead can change perception so that it's almost like one's right in the center of the breath. So on the in-breath, one can be totally immersed by the breath. On the out-breath, totally immersed by the breath. Okay, and can open our eyes and do a short reflection on the Dhamma. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Saṅghāṃ saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Saṅghāṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghāṃ saranang gacchāmi. So good morning, evening, everybody, wherever people might happen to be in the world. I guess in Sri Lanka right now it's probably morning time, and here in Canada it's actually night. Night is falling, and so this is, or night has fallen actually already night. And so this is kind of the way it goes, have this kind of phrase, as the world turns, as time goes by, is one meaning of it. But in this context, I guess, could mean, world is turning and both of us are can be on opposite sides of the globe. Can be nighttime in one place and daytime in another. Can be approaching, going to winter in one place and maybe the rainy season in another place, maybe dry in another place. And this is kind of the way that it goes. All these people around the world live in these various environments in the world. Some people live in deserts, some in rainforests, some in hot countries, some in cold countries, some in cities, some in villages. And so actually the Buddha teaches, he teaches, I guess you could say, for people with temperaments that are similar to these different places. All of us have our different temperaments. Some people have the kind of hot temperament. Some people have the cold temperament. Some people, their minds are like they're in a kind of forest. Some people, their minds are like they're in a city. And for all these different people with these different characters, the Buddha lays out this same goal. There's this goal which is the end of suffering. And so, because people have all these different characteristics, because it's like people are living in all these different, staying in all these different places all over the world and all want to get to the same direction, it's not possible for somebody to give a set of directions that can apply equally to every single person on the planet. Can't just say, okay, if anybody wants to get to Nibbana, then do X, do Y, do Z, and you'll get to Nibbana for sure. Giving exact, specific instructions that'll work, that somebody can follow, like a kind of directions on a MapQuest map. It's because these people are all in different places along the world. They all have these different kind of minds. So same way you can't give MapQuest directions that you printed out for yourself that work for you exactly to somebody who's living in Saudi Arabia and say, okay, take these directions and you're going to get to downtown Toronto. And those directions were kind of appropriate for the spot where you were at in the world. For somebody in Saudi Arabia, they have to take a different route to get to downtown Toronto. For somebody living in Canada's northern wilderness, they have to take a different route to get to downtown Toronto. For somebody living in South America, their route is different to get to downtown Toronto. But there are these kind of principles that apply to everybody regardless of whether they're traveling. So, we all know that, okay, downtown Toronto has these features, and we're trying to go towards a place that has these features. It's a city, it's not a wilderness, it's in Canada, it's not in the Netherlands, these kind of things. In the same way, the Buddha teaches us we're all trying to move towards wholesome qualities. These wholesome qualities have these features. And moving towards these wholesome qualities, we're trying to find a way to uproot our attachment to everything. But because people are all in all these different places, you can't be a method like do step A exactly, step B, step C, step D. It's more like trying to give people who are in all these different places around the world a set of instructions, a set of principles that will help them with their travels, that will help them on their way. So we have the Pali Canon, which gives many of these sets of principles to help people on their way. In the same way, you might have a kind of a wilderness guide, with principles that are helpful for everybody, teaching people how to filter water, how to tell the compass directions, teaching people how to navigate in a city, maybe giving people phrase books for different cities they'll reach along the way, maybe teaching people how to get on airplanes, these kind of things, And with all these principles in mind, it's up to a person, wherever they are in the world, to figure out how to get to downtown Toronto. Can't be the exact same for everybody. Even two people living in the same neighborhood, they have different directions they might take. They might encounter different obstacles on their way. And so for this reason, what the Buddha teaches us, he gives us directions, but more, he gives us principles. So, of course, everybody who's coming from the east will go west to go to downtown Toronto. Everybody who's west of downtown Toronto will go east to get to downtown Toronto. These kind of principles are there. Same way, everybody who has a lot of hatred, they have to cultivate metta. Everybody who might have a lot of metta but not a lot of energy, they have to cultivate the factor of energy. So we have these principles in the Pali Canon. We have these principles that the Buddha's given us to teach us how to get to Nibbana, and then it's up to each individual person to try to get there as best they can on their own. To take these kind of principles wherever they are in the world. If they're in a desert, then taking a look around and say, okay, I'm in a desert. The instructions that would apply to somebody living in the Arctic to get to downtown Toronto are not the same for me. I'm here, I have these surroundings, I've got to take this route. And this is where the element of discernment comes in to the Buddha's path. It's not just a matter of following instructions, step A, step B, step C, step D. There's conditions all around us all the time that are changing. And we have to try to figure out how to navigate these conditions. In the same way a person would, when traveling, encounter various obstacles on the way that weren't on the map. I guess now they have kind of GPS and people can report these things, but that aside, a person will still encounter obstacles. And when they encounter them, there won't necessarily be a step-by-step formula for those. It's how do I use the principles that I know to overcome the obstacles that are in front of me to get to the destination that I want. So in this way, the Buddha offers us, he does give us some instructions, however. He does say, these are qualities that are wholesome. These are qualities that are unwholesome. These are the states that are to be cultivated. These are the states that are to be abandoned. These are how we cultivate. This is how we can go about cultivating dispassion. And there's all these various ways which we can use to try to permanently cut the fetters. And having these principles in mind, it's up to a person to set out on their own, to look around in the environment around them and say, okay, what environment is my mind like? Is my mind a hating mind? Is my mind a greedy mind? Is my mind a deluded mind? And what defilement is it? What kind of thing is it that keeps pulling me off of my practice? And how do I overcome that? What tools, what principles can I use to apply in this way? And once we start doing this, we're like somebody who sets out on a journey. Somebody who starts taking these necessary steps. We start to practice. We start to try to overcome our wholesome qualities. And as we do this, we start to learn more and more about the principles that the Buddha taught, about the principles of travel. And the map becomes a bit more clear to us, bit by bit. But advancing is this way. It's not just something we can do by following step A, step B, step C, step D. It's something where we actually have to develop this quality of discernment ourselves, this quality of ingenuity ourselves, learning to look around the situations, look around our mind and ask, how do I overcome this defilement that I have? How do I develop this wholesome quality that I don't have? And the nice thing about when we do this is that we actually develop a skill. That's why the Buddha says his teachings lead people to become independent of others in his dispensation. Because when in developing this skill, we become a person who learns to stand on our own, learns to travel on our own. This is the kind of teacher that the Buddha was. It's not possible to just take somebody and each person to bring them all the way there. The Buddha is no longer with us to give each person individual directions. So instead, he's like a person who is a good guide, a good teacher. And the best kinds of teachers are the teachers who teach us to develop these principles so that we can carry them forward in our life outside of the classroom. So practicing Buddhism is like this. Practicing the Buddha's teachings are like this. It's something that's more than just following a pat set of instructions. It requires the development of a body of skills to try to move forward in overcoming unwholesome qualities and developing wholesome ones. And in developing these body of skills, we learn to apply them so that we learn to read the map well ourselves, so that we learn to get a better grip on the terrain. And this is, of course, in the hopes that we one day reach our destination, which is the complete end of suffering. Okay, so I think I'll leave that for reflection and hope that everybody has a great day or night wherever they may be in the world, in the desert, in the fall in Canada, or the tropics. Wishing you all the best. Okay.